Okay, Torah, Parshas Lecha, page Yud Beis. There are not too many Maamarim in Lech Lecha, but page Yud Beis, first column. Okay, the pasuk says, after by the Bris Milah, it says, "Yikodei Shimcha Avram," your name will not be called Avram anymore. Shimcha Avraham, your name will be Avraham. Ki Avram ein Goyim, because you're going to be the father of all nations. So he says, what's the purpose why Hashem commanded us to do a Bris Milah? Because it says, at the end of creation, it says Hashem created to do, and the Medrash says it means l'sakin, to fix, meaning Hashem left an unfinished world. At the unfinished world, our avodah is to finish the world. And he says, even though Hashem already created mankind, he didn't create even a person complete. Like it says in the Medrash Rabbah, Shol ala Milah, this Goyish person asked about Bris Milah. He asked, Im chavivi Milah, if Milah is so important, Lamen nivra adam arel. Why did Hashem create the person uncircumcised? We need to circumcise him. If Hashem hates it, why doesn't he just create us circumcised? And the answer of the Chacham was, it's like Hashem made beans, and you're not able to eat raw beans, you have to cook it. In other words, Hashem could have made finished bread, finished ice cream, finished chocolate cake. Hashem could have made all these things finished already. It's no. Hashem makes wheat, and we have to make the wheat into flour. And then why? Because Hashem wants us, our avodah, to fix the world. So Hashem created the person imperfect with our law, and then He says, okay, do a bris, perfect yourself. What's the connection between the mashal and the nimshal? You know that it's known, Maimer, what we say. That Hashem renews constantly in His goodness. Every second, it's constantly happening, yesh miyayin, something from nothing. It wasn't Hashem created the world and left. There's continuous creation of something from nothing. And the creation of Gashmias from Ruchnias, there's no, you can't have cause and effect. For instance, from 1,000,000 to 1,000, you go down a little bit, you get to 1,000. Gashmi and Ruchni, physical and spiritual, are completely different. So he says, I only through a bechina, only through a level of ivdila pereches lechem bein hakedesh, that there's a curtain that separates between the holy of holies and the holy. Meaning like this: in order for spiritual to become physical, you just can't go a little bit lower, because a little less spiritual doesn't become physical. So therefore, how does creation yesh miyayin come? Hashem kaviyachol, spiritually, has to put up a curtain between the light, okay, and the world. So then when you have a curtain, the light on the other side of the curtain is a different type of a light. In other words, you have a light on the table, and the closer you are to the light, the more light you have. The further you go away from the light, the less light you have. But it's all the same light, more and less. But it's the same light. If you put a blanket over the light on the other side of the blanket is completely different. So therefore, the whole concept of, in the Beis HaMikdash, that there was this concept of pareiches, the curtains that separated between one level and another level, it was for this reason, because in the Beis HaMikdash was the source of sustenance from Hashem in the Holy of Holies, And therefore, the hashpah, I'll explain this whole thing in a second. The sustenance that came from the Kodesh HaKadoshim, would not be through such a great revelation. Everything would be the same. Meaning like this. The Beis HaMikdash was God's home. Where was the home of Hashem? In the Beis HaMikdash, in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, in the Holy of Holies. That's where Hashem's essence was revealed. That's why, like we learned, what was unique in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, that the place of the Aron didn't take a place. Like we learned many times, the room was 20 cubits. Okay, the ark was in the middle of the room. The ark was 2.5. If you measured from one end of the ark to the end of the room was 10. The other end of the ark to the end of the room was 10. The ark took up 2.5, which really should be 22.5. And the whole room was only 20. That's the uniqueness of what Chazal say, Malkum Adon and Aminamid. So what type of sustenance is that from Hashem? That's the level of the unity between place and above place simultaneously. You can have place, you can have above place. You can have finite, you can have infinite. Okay, that's not so great. When infinite and finite are put together, united, that you have 10 plus 10 plus 2.5, which is place, yet it equals 20 because there's a revelation of Hashem so great, the level of God, which is above place and above place together. Okay? Don't think to try to understand because we can't, but that's the fact, that's what it was. Now, that Kedusha cannot go to the rest of the world because it's too great, and that's not what Hashem wants. Hashem wants us to take darkness and make darkness into light. If the sustenance of the Kodesh HaKadoshim, that revelation of godliness, would be just spread out all over the world, we'd have nothing to do. Hashem wants us to perfect the imperfect world, so Hashem had to somehow, so to speak, stop that revelation. Now, if you just go further, it's the same thing, just a little less. It's still not going to work. So Hashem made the Pareiches between the Holy of Holies and the rest of the Beis HaMikdash. That curtain blocked the light that the Kedusha on this side, outside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, was a completely different level of Kedusha, not less Kedusha, a completely different level of Kedusha.
What happens when there is wisdom in the flow?
It breaks nature. Simple example. The nature of water is to flow. Yes? Now, what happened in Kriyas Yamsuf? It stopped flowing.
Yes.
So what did you do? You broke the nature of water. That's a miracle.
So that Kedusha is coming to the other side.
I understand, but it's a much lesser level of Kedusha, because that's what Hashem wants. Because He wants us to perfect the world. If that Kedusha is all over the world, what are we doing?
So at the end of the perimeter of the Beit HaMikdash, that was the limit of the Kedusha.
Of that level, yes. In that room, yes.
And what Kedusha do we have right now at the present time here in America, here in Los Angeles?
Pretty bad.
I mean, there is no Beit HaMikdash, there is no...
There's a Beis HaMikdash in you, in me, in him. A shul is a mini Beis HaMikdash. A home is a mini Beis HaMikdash. Obviously a much smaller level of Kedusha. So therefore he says, 4 lines in the end of the first column. Therefore the Kedusha came out of the Kodesh HaKadoshim, came through a curtain that blocks, separating them from the Kodesh HaKadoshim, which is Gili Ashchina, to the level of Kodesh HaPereiches. Targum Unklis Parsa. Pereiches which means a curtain. Uncle says means a curtain, parsa. The kama meaning parachis base hamikdash, as the Gemara says, there were 13 parechises in the base hamikdash, whatever. Shekol ishtaushus me'elam ad elam, any chain from level to level. Why they must of parsa is a curtain, a mafsik ben kol elam. For instance, from Atzilus to Bria, it has to be a curtain. Between Bria and Yetzirah, there's a spiritual curtain. Between Yetzirah and Asiya, there's a curtain. Because the Kedusha of Atzilus doesn't come into Bria. Bria is already yesh mi ayin. Bria is already not bottled. Bria is already an entity that feels itself. So therefore, how does that happen from Atzilus? There has to be a curtain that blacks the Atzilus revelation and makes it a completely different revelation into the world of Bria, from Bria to Yetzirah, Yetzirah to Asiya.
Otherwise it breaks.
Otherwise, the Kedusha is too great for it.
It breaks.
It won't break. It's just that there won't be Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya. Everything would be Atzilus.
If we get that Kedusha level in the Mashiach era,
Yeah.
reincarnation will stop? Because
This stuff is not only going to be like it was then, it's going to even be greater.
But we can't handle it.
Then we'll be able to handle it because of the Torah mitzvahs we did in this world. In other words, we know there was what's called Tzimtzum Arishi in Hashem. There's too much revelations. The God had to remove everything, okay, and then recreate, re-reveal. So Chassidus asked the question: L'cha'eram, when Mashiach comes, we're going to have that revelation of Lifnei HaTzimtzum. How are you going to be able to handle it then? If you couldn't handle it at the beginning of creation, how can we handle it then? So the answer is, I can give you a gashmistic emotion, which is not correct. A person can't sleep with the light on. But if they're already sleeping and somebody turns on the light, they're not going to wake up. Right? So, at the beginning, the world couldn't exist. Now that there's a world that could exist. But the answer is really more than that. Now, after Torah mitzvahs makes the world a vessel to handle that level of Lifnei HaTzimtzum, of the level it was at the beginning of creation. So not only is it going to be a Beis HaMikdash, because the first two Bati Mikdashes, first two temples were destroyed, which means they were not eternal. They were not permanent. If they're not permanent and eternal, it's not real. 1 second. Mashiach, Beis HaMikdash, is permanent.
Then the tree of life will be given to humankind?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
So the Rabbi, Holy of the Holy, that Kohen Gadol went on Yom Kippur inside,
Right.
was HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed constantly or only revealed in Yom Kippur?
When in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, there was a continuous, constant revelation of the essence of Hashem.
So if
Therefore, it was too great to go on a daily basis. If anybody just walked into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, they got killed.
how about Kohen Gadol?
Kohen Gadol only on Yom Kippur.
What about if he would have gone?
He would die.
The workers would die.
The workers went in boxes as a mechitza. They didn't go in. They would lower them down from the roof in a container, in a mechitza. You know? That used to have by the oil for kohanim, you know. So they used to go in, huh?
They have to be clean.
Clean, fakes, you know.
Fix what?
Make sure that maybe the lights went off. I don't know.
So for sure the Bet HaMikdash in those days will be in the same spot.
Exactly the same spot.
The Rambam says that the Kohanim used to get sick all the time because of their clothing.
No. Because they walked barefoot on a stone floor. And they ate too much meat.
Right.
No, what does that have to do with...
No, you just said
No, there was a doctor, in-house doctor in the Bris Hamikdash, the Mishnah says.
It really was, yeah.
Yeah, because there was... Pharmacist, I don't think so. But the doctor they had, because people, the Kohanim would get sick. The stone floor is cold.
So So when we get that level of kedusha, many things will change. As
Right.
again, tree of life will be given to humankind. So reincarnation will
Everything reincarnation. I don't know exactly. It's going to be like it was in Gan Eden before the sin. Okay, V'zeh in your top of your base, second column. V'zeh in your mechadish v'tuvish yosavas me'ayin liyesh. That the creation of something from nothing, or the chiddush is through the uniqueness, meaning the masach uparsa nasa or chodosh. That's why it's called a mechadish b'tuvei. What's the newness? It's a new revelation of Hashem that's different than the essence of Hashem. It had to be blocked. When it came down, Nasa 8 parsa. It becomes another curtain, another curtain, another curtain, until it could become Gashmias, until it could become the physical world. That's why, at the beginning of Chumash, Mamish, the third pasuk, it says, "Vayom Elokim Yehi Od, Vayehi Od." Okay, so all the Mefarshim ask, by everything else it says Vayehi Chen. So it was. Vayom Elokim Yehi Od, Yehi Od. It should say Vayehi Chen, like everything else. So the simple answer is, Od is 3 letters, Chen is 2 letters, no big deal. So Hashem said Vayehi Od. The Medrash says no. Hashem said, let there be light. That light that Hashem created, you're able to look from one end of the world to the next. And that world Hashem saw the world was not worthy of. In other words, there was a spiritual revelation of godliness that the world was not able to handle. So Hashem had to re-reveal Vayehi Od. It was a revelation of a different type of light. A light the world could handle. Hashem hid it for tzaddikim and Torah, whatever. Okay, so now he says, there's many different types of curtains that's separate. There's a different levels like this. Mitzvah Shabbos we say, Hamavdil ben Kodesh l'chol. Right? It separates between holy and mundane. Shemasach Mavdil Gomer, which is a complete separation between the Daim and the Parsa. Shamafsik ben Kodesh HaKadoshim. Just to make it before we get into Kodesh HaKadoshim. When you make Havdalah from Saturday night to Yom Tif, Yom Tif is Sunday. So Saturday night by Kiddush, you make Havdalah also, right? Mm-hmm. So over there we say a Mavdul ben Kodesh or Kodesh. Separates between Kodesh and Kodesh. Between holy and holy. Shabbos is holier than Yom Tif. So we say Hashem separates between the Kedusha of Shabbos to Kedusha of Yom Tov. So a regular Saturday night we say Mavdul ben Kodesh l'chol. Separates between holy and mundane. That's a much bigger separation than there is between Kodesh and Kodesh. Obviously, the separation between holy and weekday is much bigger than holy to holy. And therefore, not only it, in Havdalah, we say, Hamnavdul ben Kodesh l'chol, ben Or l'cheshach, ben Yisrael l'amim, ben Yem hashvil l'sheshim mi'amayis. Right? Hashem separates ben Kodesh between holy and the weekday. Okay, ben Yisrael to the Jew, between light and dark, between the Jews and the nations, the 6th day, the 7th day, and the rest of the week. Each one of those is a different separation. It's not all the same separation. It's all a different separation. There's a separation between holy and holy, and there's a separation between holy and chol. And he says, Shemas bein adayim and leparts. It's not at all compared to the parts of the curtain that separates between Kodesh and Kodesh HaKadoshim. So that is Taushas Eiser Erd Atzmishin is Gashim. Because in Kedusha, it's all holy, right? So the separation between holy and holy is the same category, just less. Yom Tov is less Kedusha than Shabbos, but it's Kedusha. Ben Kodesh l'chol, chol is not Kodesh, it's a completely different realm, a different Kedusha, a different level. So there's a big difference. The Gamlach and Aparsa, even after the separation, He's still Kodesh, like it says. Shmavdilim Moshe Shabbos Liyom Dam Mavli Ben Kodesh Lo Kodesh. Masha'en came Ben Kodesh Lo Chol. But when you separate, in other words, even in the Beis Hamikdash, the outside the Kodesh HaKadoshim was still holy. It was called the Kodesh, in fact. So that level of Kedusha is the same level less. Between Kodesh and Chol, you're talking about two opposite worlds. It's not less Kedusha into Chol, it's completely Chol.
The difference between Kodesh with the Vav and Kadesh.
Yeah, one's Chochmah, one's Bina, but that's not for now. Like the evil chambers. Hamagbim esatzim le'Milah, like Pari said, I made the Nile, I am basically God. Ela sha'atem mechayes kula. You give life to Adin, Lakaya. Ve'in for the mamish, and they don't. Okay, he says like this. There's two levels of klipa. There's a level of klipa that says God is the God of the gods, which means God is God. God is holy. They're not denying the existence of God. Atheists deny the existence of God. The old time Avodah Zarah, many of them believed Elokad Elokai means the God of the gods. That means they're not saying Hashem is not a God. They still believe in Hashem. They say this is also a God. And that's what they say. That it should become from Elokei Elokim, B'mokim Helim V'Astiv HaCheshech. Val Mosech Mavdil Zeh, it says, Al B'Shamayim Kadesh. Hashem said, I'll put pots over the heaven. Meaning, I'll conceal the heaven. Shemayim, heaven, represents spirituality, revelation of Kedusha. Earth reveals mundane, weekday, no good. So Hashem says in the passage, between heaven and earth, I'll make this blockage. In other words, in order for heaven to become earth, or for heaven to reveal, i.e., Kedusha, to reveal to Chol, there has to be blockages, curtains. Because otherwise, earth will be on the same level as heaven. And that can't be. I mean, it could be. That's not what Hashem wants.
But if there is no evil inclination and free will, still free will? In that case,
Where?
When we get the betamik,
Yes, there'll be free will between good and better.
it's still good and bad.
Between good and better.
There will be
Good
no
and
bad.
bad?
There's no bad.
So no evil inclination, no klipas, no yetzerara.
Nope.
It's gone.
Where is gone?
Where's it
I
go?
mean,
Where it
it's
go?
From humankind?
Left.
Okay.
It's only Kedusha.
So free will just for good and bad.
Better.
Sahara leaves or becomes converted to good?
Well, there's a level that Yetzar Ruach HaTum Avim in Aretz, and there's a second level that the evil is transformed to good.
But there's a parsa, you can never have the essence.
If the parsa is removed,
We die.
no, Mashiach comes, we're not going to die. The parsa will be removed, we'll have V'nigel Kved Hashem V'ro, Kol Bas Yachtav, Mol Artis Deus Hashem. You know, Mol Artis means full, full, full. There isn't a space without Deus Hashem.
So until then, you cannot never ever have the essence
You could.
with the
You do a mitzvah, you get essence, but you don't feel it. It's not revealed. It's in the trust fund.
So when you do a mitzvah, you break through the parsa.
Correct. There's an expression Chassidus brings down, Kol ha-mitzvahs misyachsim elo atzmos. All mitzvahs are connected to essence. A Jew does a simple mitzvah, simple physical mitzvah, they connect to the essence of Hashem. Why don't we feel it? Neshama feels it, by the way. We don't feel it because the world is dark, we're blind, the eyes are not functioning, and that's it. So that's what it is. But the Jew, when they do a mitzvah, connect. That's why Yafet Shachas B'Tshuva Ma'asav De'el Mazam Mikol Chayil Mabah. Because Olam Haba is only Rei, and this is essence. Now, when Mashiach comes, especially in the era of Tchis HaMesim, that essence that we accomplish now by doing Torah mitzvahs is going to be revealed.
There was a parasite between Kodesh Kodashim.
Right. Now,
No, at the time.
at the time.
Anna,
Yeah, but not when Mashiach comes.
you were saying that when I do a mitzvah, I break through that parasite?
Correct. And so, is that what I mean,
Yeah, but when you hear it, it's something else.
we learned it a million times.
Yes.
Why is this world better than Gan Eden? Therefore, those that learn Chassidus are not interested in doing things for Gan Eden. Gan Eden is a ray of the Shechina. Who wants a ray? If I can get the real thing. Why do I have to smell the food if I can eat the food? No, it's like Gan Eden is the Ziv HaShechina. It's a Mishnah. No.
That's for Torah to see if you can smell.
No,
Yeah.
so every time a Jew, that's why Tchiz HaMeisim is dependent on mitzvahs now. Gashmias. Not getting into it now, but the source of Gashmias is higher than the source of Ruchnias. Ruchnias realizes its source. Gashmias and Metzius Matzimusei, without going into that million-time thing again. Okay? Gashmias is revealing the level of Hashem of in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, Metzius Matzimusei. That Zman, L'mayla min Zman, Mokim, L'mayla min Mokim, it's all the same thing. That's the essence of Hashem. It's a pasuk in Tilim, in Kuf Beis or whatever. David Melch says, "Va'atahu, you are you Hashem, u'shneisecha lo yitamu." Your years never end. Yes.
Years never end.
The Rashba says, Chassidus has a field day with this. That's a contradiction of terms. If it's time, it has to end. Time is limited. You can't have infinite time. La Yitama means it's infinite, never finishes. So Chassidus explains, what does the pasuk actually mean? Va'atahu, in the level of ata, shneisecha la yitamu, mokam arin enem min amida. There's no difference between place and it's all Hashem's that level is above both. So place is not place above place is not above place, and you make a shidduch between time and above time, place and above place, and it's enough for today.